Okay, let's get this set up here. Live starting up now. Okay, there. Let's go to Streamlabs, get this set up. What's going on, guys? Just launching up here. Everyone just welcome. Happy Sunday here. Just going to get going in a little bit here. Going to give everyone about a minute or two to log in, and we'll get stuff started. Just quickly post up. Okay, there we go. It may, if not, starting here. 1 second, guys. Thank you guys for joining. Excited for this watch list. Hopefully you guys brought some good questions. Haven't done actually a live session in about a couple weeks, so I'm pretty excited to get this started. Abe, what's going on? Lerner, CK Kendrick, Joey, Peter, Justin, Billy Coleman, Will L, Info, Trevor, Dylan, Robert, Will. Hopefully you guys are doing all right. Robbing Marks, always see you on. Hello, sir. How are you? Great to see you guys all joining in. Awesome. Already has 65 viewers. It's been about 30 seconds. Just give me another 30 seconds, guys. 105 viewers. I'd like to get to maybe 150, 200 viewers before we get started. Once again, happy Sunday. Really big week coming up, so it's going to be exciting. A lot of volatility again. As I've said, since probably May, we're going to have about three full months of volatility. It's going to be pretty crazy. So we're just going to keep trading it up and down. This is a day trading scalpers market. Going to talk through that, and we'll talk through some things this week. I'm excited. I put about 5-6 tickers together. 4 of the 6, which actually have earnings this week, and you could see some nice movements up or down off that. So I'm looking forward to that. As well as I'm going to cover some earnings stuff, some TNA, some support resistance stuff. And then we're going to do I want to keep a majority of the time for Q&A because I want to cover your guys' questions. I know everyone has a ton of questions. People's minds are racing. It's probably one of the craziest times I've ever traded. COVID was much different trading that. So I haven't really traded something like this in obviously since COVID in years to come. So, I'm pretty excited with the opportunities here. So we're going to discuss a lot of stuff today. So give yourself about 45 minutes here to an hour. Obviously, feel free to hop off whenever you need to. This session will be recorded. It is also open to the public. This is not just for our premium members. I'll talk through that and I'll open up with that as well. I'm just going to give it another 20-30 seconds, guys. We're going to get started here. About 130 people joined. So, some people aren't too familiar with technology like myself, so it takes a little bit to log in here. So just give everyone about 30 seconds, guys. I appreciate it. Also, I have my tech team in the comments that are under Spud Zone Official in the comment section. They will be answering any questions or any info you may need during the session. Awesome. Let me get started here. Okay. Let me make sure everyone can see screen. Get going. Awesome. Let me just quickly confirm. Can you guys see my screen? If so, we'll get started on that. Awesome. So, hey guys, for those that are new to following me, new followers, new members, etc. I'm Spud from Spud Zone. A little bit about me. In the past couple of years, I've turned about $15,000 over $2 million. Trading small caps, large caps, options, and different equities throughout. You can follow me on Webull. I have about 54,000 followers. Most followed trader globally on that application. You can follow me on StockTwits. I have a little over 25,000 followers there. Post a lot of my ideas on those channels, those specifically. Not so much on Twitter, anywhere else. Webull, StockTwits, main areas on social to follow me. also follow me within our Discord. We have about 30,000 members in the Spud Zone Discord. Great options team, awesome options educators, ton of really good educational content, really good community family vibe. Everyone's there to sort of help each other, run through charts, run through the markets. It's an awesome opportunity to one, learn, and two, obviously try and trade this market consistently. We trade up and down, short, long. And you'll see all the trade ideas in real time, what I'm trading, what I'm buying, what I'm selling, what I'm putting, everything within the channels itself. You can see that within the Discord update, within the Discord into my YouTube info. So you guys can see my Discord info through the YouTube or ask the tech team, and they'll probably post it throughout the session. Those are a lot of my premium, picks and ideas, and that's also where we give a lot of our information out within the Discord in terms of learning materials, charting, etc. Okay, awesome. Love to do a lot of these YouTube sessions. I've got probably hundreds, if not thousands, of positive feedbacks via DMs, via social channels around these sessions in the past. I find it most helpful, and what I've seen from most of our students and most of our members, if they take notes on their laptops or pen and papers. If I'm going too fast, I'll try and slow down, but there's a lot of information I like to cover throughout these sessions. So do bear with me there. And then the Q&A, I'll try and slow down the pace a little bit to answer each and everyone's questions, and try to limit yourself to 2 or 3 of your main questions, and that will be at the end of the session. Okay, so today's session I want to cover is the watch list for this week. And the watch list for this week, I think, guys, for me, if you guys have probably been following along, everything's been super sort of intact, very small, a lot of focus. Because in this market, there's so much craziness going around where all you really need is 1 or 2 good trades throughout the week to really hit those daily, weekly, monthly goals. And there's no really need to overtrade in this market. I've taken some bigger losses, throughout the last couple months by overtrading in this market up and down, because the volatility is great, and I thrive most off volatility. And I try and teach new traders, experienced traders, and other traders how to thrive in volatile environments, because that's where really traders make the biggest sort of yearly gains, is in volatile markets like this, where there's tons of up and down and volatility rather than just a boring, stagnant day. And we as traders, we want things to drop to zero. We want things to pump to the moon. And those are the best kind of days when you can sort of time that and play the volatility up or down. So, a little bit about myself. I'm a retail trader. I trade specifically with my own money, not for anyone else. So that's why I give my trade ideas live on what I'm trading, what I'm buying and selling. I myself are not a financial advisor. I'm just trading with my own money and alerting my ideas. So therefore, obviously, trade at your own risk and trade with your own, obviously, ideas, etc. Okay. So this week, or in this session, we're going to cover about 3 different things. Okay. The first thing, which I sort of did a little survey with what we wanted to cover today. And the first thing we wanted to cover was 3 things. We have a big earnings week coming up. And so obviously folks want to get ready for that. There's going to be some volatile earnings reports. I imagine some big shift downs, maybe by followed reversals to the upside, and maybe some reversals to the upside that get sold off with, people saying, I'm going to use this idea to exit. So we're going to see some volatile earnings this week. I'm going to talk through a bunch on this screen that I want to sort of walk through and discuss with you guys, and some that I think is worth watching. Second thing I'm going to get into is about 5 tickers. We're going to go through TNA analysis. What that means is technical analysis. So where you want to be buying a potential ticker for a bounce, where you want to be selling a potential ticker for a short or for profits, and then riding back down, and then really where we are with demand and supply zones. And then I'm going to talk through a little bit about price action. A lot of people don't understand price action. For me, I've been trading quite some time now, and I can feel price action through the screens, through the monitors, as I like to call it. You can feel the selling. You can feel the buying. You can follow the algorithms moving this thing up or down, and that is what I call price action. Price action dictates how I make my trades. Very simple. As you guys, new guys probably know, I'm extremely passionate about this stuff. So you're going to see me, have a lot of emphasis throughout this session today. Many of you will probably think I'm crazy, but I love this. I can eat, breathe, and sleep this 20 hours a day. So I'm going to talk through price action, of why it's so vital and important to follow price action, because that's where a ticker may go throughout an intraday session, throughout a weekly session, throughout a monthly session, and maybe dictate where the price where the price may actually go. So that's really important, okay? And then the third thing tonight, guys, we're going to cover, is about a 45 minutes hour session, is the Q&A analysis, and I'll answer everyone and anyone's question as best to my ability. If I do not know the answer, I will just say, hey guys, I don't know. I'll write it down. I'll try and get back to you guys on social. If I do know the answer, I'll answer it to the best of my ability. Please refrain from asking questions about specific tickers, forcing me to go look it up within the Webull application here I have on desktop, and then sort of pulling up. It's just a slow process for the hundreds that are signing in here and trying to read. So let's stay away from the sort of ticker examples. Maybe talk about a specific sector, anything about me or trading, etc. Okay. So we're going to jump right into it here. We start out with Bank of America, Goldman Sachs. We saw JP Morgan last week, as well as Morgan Stanley have some earnings. Both actually ended up selling off and then going up and riding up to the upside, closing out in the week green, I believe. So keep an eye on Goldman Sachs, Bank of America. Banks are always first for the earnings, and it's really important to study these two because the banks have a really great eye in terms of what's going to happen in the future in terms of the 6 to 12 month timeline. Okay, so we're going to keep an eye on those. We have IBM after close. IBM has been one of my favorite tickers to watch this year. Now, keep in mind, guys, please do write this one down. It's one of my favorite dividend plays as well. It's a big software, huge legacy, big tech name, been around for 80 plus years, has a ton of cash on the balance sheet. They're going nowhere. It's a name that's withstanded, 8 recessions thus far, all the crashes. I mean, they've been around forever. They pay a 4 to 5% dividend yield. It's a place I was actually looking to lock up some liquidity, some capital. Early on in the year, I never got that entry. That about 117s, 118s, I alerted it. Actually, it got to that low, which is a 2015, 2016 low. What an unbelievable buy that's been. It's already up about 10 or 15% since then. Plus, you have your 4 to 5% dividend yield. That's a 20% yield that you might be able to make on this company. 20% in a market like this, I would say 99% of the world would die for that percentage gain. So keep an eye on IBM. That's ticker IBM. They have earnings after close. Any serious pullbacks, which I doubt you get, it's not a big mover on earnings, usually 1 or 2, 3% max. I'd keep an eye. If any big drastic pullbacks, it might be a great opportunity to buy, guys, because you can get that 4 to 5% dividend yield where they're actually going to pay you out on the shares you own each and every quarter. So it's worth it for sure from a long-term opportunity. Then we have Tuesday, we have J&J. Keep an eye on that. It's had a great run up. I'll talk through some resistances potentially in a little bit. We have Netflix after close. This has had 2 huge earnings gap downs, like 25% each drawdown. I personally think there's more opportunity for an upside potential beat here because things are so negative, dropping from $700. The PE is pretty low. They've basically put this in the value camp. So I'd keep an eye on Netflix. It had a crazy big pop Friday, 8%. I just, if I'm going to play it, it might be lotto calls. I just don't, if it drops 5, 6, 7%, great. But I don't think it's going to have one of those 25% drawdowns again, like people think. The PE's, drastically lower, guys, already. Obviously, that PE can continue down. We have to see what management says and all the guidance, etc. around subs and their new advertising gig. Then the big one everyone's going to be talking about, the apes of the world. Everyone is going to be talking about Tesla, the Tesla Twitter stuff, the Elon Musk stuff. So Tesla's going to be a volatile one, usually about a 5 to 7% move if I can recall for the last 6 to 8 quarters. Keep an eye on Tesla after close. Personally, I think it's a quarter that I'm going to sit out. I'm not going to play any lottos to the up or downside because I saw the vehicle numbers. They were incredible. I don't know how they performed all those vehicles and delivered all those vehicles in this environment. Kudos, they're doing really well, navigating all this. It's a no touch for me. I would hate to see a lot of, huge monster premiums just get absolutely burned and have a sideways quarter and, things are only up or down 2 or 3, 4%. I don't know if we're going to get like a 15, 20% type of move here. I just don't know. That chart just doesn't set up for me either way. And then really at the end of the week, Thursday, we have Snap. Snap's an advertising gig. Another one I won't touch because premiums are crazy. The one I probably will touch very small in the lottos is American Express pre-market before the open. That will probably be a lotto with maybe a strangle, puts and calls. Talk through that trade later. Twitter, another one. I probably won't touch this, but worth a watch. I think the earnings will be absolutely horrific. There's been so many distractions, and this company can't produce a dollar. I mean, I just think this is gonna be horrific. But I don't think it's going to drop because of that obviously outstanding bid and lawsuit now that's going to be going on with Elon. So, I think it's a name to stay away from as well. So this week there's a lot of excitement around earnings necessarily, guys, but I wouldn't call it like I'm going to be playing them. I think it's more of a watch and play off of what happens. Obviously right now, guys, we have a lot in the markets. Since January, if you're a new trader, new follower, I've called a big downtrend. I was looking for a 10-15% pullback. And we got much more than that. Things fell off a cliff, 50, 60, 70% from highs. Indexes hit, 25, 28% on the QQQ. It dropped much, much more than I originally predicted. As many know, I've been about 95% liquid cash since about last December, waiting for this downtrend, playing this downtrend as well in a lot of over PE names, highly PE names. So, we're here now where I think it's worth sort of dabbling into that long-term mindset. I learned at multiple points. We're going to walk through some charts, but obviously, guys, there's a lot of uncertainty still. We have the Fed hikes. We got crazy high CPI numbers. We have earnings this week, earnings for the next couple weeks. We got Ukraine supply shortages and war. We got Russia advancements over there. We have, the Germany power crisis going on. If Putin decides to shut off that gas line. We have the euro crashing. I think it's like 18-year lows, while the US dollar's hitting really high, which is good and bad. Which I'll explain to that, obviously via like FX, and it's going to, really probably hit the mega techs the hardest because, their earnings power is going to go down. Then you got the China-Taiwan stuff. You have big tech earnings coming up. Those are all your uncertainty negatives. Here's your short-term positive catalyst for the indexes and large cap, which I'm going to talk through now. And I'm going to show you guys a couple sectors I think is really worth keeping an eye on this week that could have major breakouts. And your two positive short-term sort of catalysts I wrote down here, you have the Saudi increasing oil production, I've heard. Nothing guaranteed, I think, yet. And then you have crude oil sort of tanking, which is potentially going to lower that inflation number. And then you have the $52 billion CHIP Act for the U.S., which is under review and possibly before August. So we could see a big run-up in those chip names, and those could potentially present multi-week opportunity swings or multi-day swings and sort of wait for the chip news and sell the news. So I'm going to walk through that, and where I'm going to start today's session, I'm going to cover 5 tickers, okay? The 5 tickers I'm going to be covering today are NVIDIA, which is ticker NVDA, AMD, QQQ, Netflix, Tesla. So 3 of those, 2 of those are earnings this week. And then the small cap name I'm going to cover again, which is EVFM, which we as a Spud Zone, we as a team in the Spud Zone have absolutely played this name perfectly, absolutely perfectly. We've had multiple 30, 50% plays on this name. I'm going to walk through why potentially it could be a nice area this week if we get a nice panic, 2 more dips, where I'm going to be looking to potentially long this name in the IRA for another swing trade to the upside. So that is a name I will be watching. Again, it's the only small cap name I'll be watching. As I said, it's the only small cap name I watched 2 weeks ago. It's the only small cap name I'll be watching this week as well. Why? Because it's super liquid, and 2, because the charts and algos play off the rip. And I'm going to talk through that exactly what I mean. Okay. First ticker we're going to walk through, guys, today is, let's go through NVIDIA. So NVIDIA, I saw some Pelosi insider buys here. I also saw some Pelosi tweets around the CHIP Act. So, there's some sketchy things going on with this ticker. It is pretty damn cheap still down here. It actually hasn't really had a run off its bottoms. I imagine it's going to have a nice pre-market move in the morning tomorrow. I won't be a buyer there. I'll be waiting for maybe a market pullback in the morning at 9:30, potentially long calls on the weekly level. But here's this name. Here's the daily chart, guys. NVIDIA, chip name. I think it's worth checking this name out. For continuation, I think we could see the 170, maybe a 175. 170 calls are potentially an area I'll be looking to try and scalp. I think those will be pretty cheap tomorrow morning if this name opens up around the 160, 158, 159, 160 level. 170 is an area I think is worth looking into some calls. That what I call a double top here around the 170, 173. That is where I'd probably be a seller and look to take some profits. If it busts out of this 173, which I don't imagine it will in a one daily or 2 daily candles, probably need some time to consolidate before maybe a larger move to that 190. But if this CHIPS Act gets approved, you might see a 190 move. Once see a 90 push, that's a 10-15% move off current levels. Actually, no, that'd be about 20-25% move off current levels. The 170 is really a key mark. That's about 10% move off from now. So that's an area I'd be looking to watch. Nvidia's all the way down here in terms of support. So it really actually has gotten pretty beat up. But it was also one of the higher multiple names. This name's worth watching in here only because it's pretty beat up and it could have a nice bounce to that 170, guys. And that's where I'll be looking to buy calls this week, the 170 strike. And those will be for scalps only. And I'll be looking to grab a pullback. If any pullbacks this week on this name, I'll be looking to potentially be a big buyer. And I'll be risking the premiums to the upside. I won't be risking capital. The only capital I'll be risking is premium calls, which therefore if the calls, expire or they, lose 20, 30, 40%, I'm only losing 20, 30, 40% on that specific premium and expiration, okay? So I'm not, I won't be loading the boat here with actual capital and equity money, right? Okay, so that is NVIDIA. Okay, so I'm going to walk through AMD, and then this one's going to be a pure chart play. I want to show you guys. This is now another chip name. These are the 2 chip names I'd be looking to watch. And this one I want to make a great example on because I think it's really important here. I alerted this one last week, and I said I was looking for the 72s to hit. And what happened was when this name hit 72, the last time it hit it was early 2021 and then 2020. And those were the last times it hit 72. And so I said, watch for a really big bounce, strong bounce, multi-day bounce off 72.50. And I've actually called this name to the T, and it's already bounced roughly a little over 10%, guys, since that level. I alerted this one live in chat. And here I want to draw the line to you guys of where I saw this. 72 is the first level where you really want to try a long for a bounce. And we got it. And I want to, why we got it is here. I'm just going to show you guys this drawing here because it's really important to how the ticker performed. I mean, let's check this out. Look at this. 1 bottom, 2 bottom, 3 bottom, 4 bottom, 5 bottom, 6 bottom, 7 bottom. We have a 7x bottom on a 2-year chart. And every time it's hit there, it's bounced. Every time it's hit there, it's bounced. Broke out, bounced, sold off, bounced, broke out of the pennant, bang, new highs, right? So now we're back to this level. Where do we go? Do we go back to 88, 87, 88? Just like NVIDIA, I'm looking for another 5 to 10% potentially higher, and that is my resistance level I'm looking for. 87, 88 is where I'm looking to maybe target on this name. Now, are we going to break out of this pennant and wedge higher to the 100 zone? I don't think so. But it's 87, 88, again, like NVIDIA, as I mentioned, is probably an area where you want to take profits. If I enter this name, that is where I'm going to be looking to take profits, guys, for maybe a rejection and then maybe a retesting of these lows, 74, 72 zones in the future. Now, if it breaks, see this horizontal line, guys? If any time in the future this line, this stock, AMD, were to break down below that 72.50 with some real volume, there's a lot more downside then to the low 60s. And that's where I'd go full bearish. As long as it holds this 72.50 for multiple weeks, multiple days, multiple months here, we could see that further bounce to that 88 zone or even the 90 zone. So you could play this one with, cash on the equity side, on the long side via some shares. Or you guys could play this potentially via call options. So, I always like to buy calls weeks or months out because if I make 20, 30, 40, 50% on that 10, 15% move, great. If you play the weeklies, they're obviously higher risk. If I play the weekly here, it'd probably be about 85 calls. That would be probably the safer bet for me. And these are all low premiums for the most part. So keep an eye on this. If you see any big pullback on this name, it might be an opportunity to go long for a swing on the call side. Okay, and that's our chip sector. That's NVIDIA and AMD. And those are 2 names I think you probably want to look to long off any weakness. Okay. Now I want to talk through Netflix. What a disaster. Actually, let's go through QQQ. What a disaster this one has been. Going to walk through this one here. So QQQ for any this is basically monitoring mega cap tech. I'm gonna kind of walk through this and sort of why. So here we are. We're gonna walk through here. This is the daily chart. I'm going to walk through the weekly chart and see sort of why 268 was a really good entry point, which is actually the first area where everyone was like, Spud, are you sure on this one? I'm like, no, I have no idea. But, 268 was a demand spot I thought where might get a bear rally bounce. And so far, I've been spot on. And this is bounced right off of 268. 270 was really that first area where I said maybe look for buy a short-term bounce. And, we've seen a short-term bounce of about 7 to 8% on the equity side in terms of the indexes. So you kind of understand where I see this bearish bounce, right? Again, let me show the line here. I'm going to show you the horizontal line. I think these are really helpful. So back in 2020, we saw a 1 bottom rip, profit taking, cool off, a 2 bottom rip. And then we sort of broke out to all-time highs. It got pretty crazy and everything got overvalued all up in this joint. And then obviously the sell-off hit this year and we started been tracing back. But 268 is that first really level where bulls sort of stepped in or trying to hold up the boat here while it's not sinking back to that 230 area. Ultimately, I do think we're going to hit this 230 area. But as I said, I don't know how long this bull rally is going to last for. It can go back up to, guys, 300, 310. And 310 is where I'd be like a major seller. As you can see, there was some heavy selling and resistance at 310. So that's an area where you look to probably be a seller, and that's an area where I'd look to actually buy puts. So 310 is where I'd be looking to buy puts for a rejection back down to the 270s, 280s, guys. Excuse me. So that's an area. Ultimately, I do think we could get to this line in here, which is the 230 line, and that is directly correlated as well with the SPY. I think we're actually going to eventually hit this 230. It might not be till 2023 though, guys. Earnings could be super strong here and guidance could be just okay enough to battle us out here, and we might just consolidate around this time. But I think, if that recession does hit, we're going to get that 230, 240 wick down. And that's another 10, 15% down from here, guys. I know that sounds crazy, but I think we could see that 30% plus drawdown on the QQQ, maybe even 40%. But this is where I'd be a long buyer. If evidently we get this low on the QQQ, I'd be a buyer around 210, 220, 230. And that's, this is something I'd sort of accumulate, 1-4 starter, 2-4 starter, 3-4 starter, load the boat, COVID lows if it ever got that low. So that's sort of how I'd scale into this. And this would be a multi-year play for me. And this is where I'd probably put some serious liquidity if the markets ever got this cheap. Again, we saw them get this cheap with COVID and absolutely rip to all-time highs, over a 225% run. I mean, it's insane. So it's scary to buy when things are crashing to the ground. But it's, as Warren Buffett says, it's the best time to buy the fear. So especially if you have a long time horizon type of view and you don't need the capital tomorrow per se, right? So that's QQQ. Tesla and Netflix are my 2 earnings that I'm going to keep an eye on. Then we're going to get to the Q&A, guys. And I'm going to talk through what strong action, price action looks like. That's going to be my last coverage because price action as a trader, guys, I'm going to show you guys where and what to look for in terms of price action. I'm going to break you down all the way on the 5-minute line. I'm going to talk through literally a 5-minute chart, and that's how I trade every day. I trade 5-minute scale line. I'm going to talk through that and show you guys what bullish price action looks like, what bearish price action looks like from a 5-minute perspective, okay? And that's going to be an intraday view. First, I'm going to cover Tesla, Netflix. Tesla, been consolidating in the same range, really, guys, for the last 2 months. I mean, look at this. Basically the same range. So we've had a bottom here around 630, ripped all the way to 780, dropped back down all the way to 630. Same thing. Bulls bought it back up, ripped it to 750, dropped back down to 650, ripped back up to 750. It's like a game of cat and mouse. Let's get 10%. Let's drop 10%. Let's go 10%. But it's over, 3, 4, 5 day period. So this daily chart is very volatile. But guess what? We have a 1 bottom, 2 bottom, 3 bottom, 4 bottom, and starting to build a base around this 650 demand zone. We're starting to see buyers come in at the 640, 650 level. So earnings Wednesday after close, if things are really ugly and we break that 640, 650, I'd say we probably have a free fall all the way down to 550. Evidently, my long-term target on this name, as I said, from the short all the way at 1200, I said Tesla's a great short at 1200. It's a multi-long short. Everyone called me crazy. People said, no way, it's going 2,000, 3,000 to the moon. I got a ton of hate on all those posts back in 2021. I still think this is a short to 550, but I don't know if you're going to get it this year. I don't know if you're going to get it next year. But any sort of really big rips to the upside here, if I could get a 900, 880, 900 right in here, I'd probably look to be short around 900 again. Because I do think we're going to retest those 2021 lows. And this is where I'd say, this is where I'd like to be long, that 550 mark. See this huge sell-off wick, got bought up. Big sell-off wick, got bought up. 550 was the last time this name hit and ripped to 1250. Okay, that's a 120% move. So that 550 is pretty key for me. I think we could hit Tesla, but as I said, I don't know when it could be. It could be after earnings. But, you know, if earnings are good, it could pop 10% and we could rip to 800, 900. So I don't know, but I do think at some point in Tesla's sort of lifespan here in the next couple months or years, this 550 could be hit. And that's an area I'd look to potentially be a long buyer for Tesla, okay? Netflix. This name has been probably the worst name on all of the mega caps. It's now not even in the FANG. It's not even a mega cap tech anymore because it's considered a value stock. That's where Wall Street has punished it. They've thrown it in the gutter. They've burned it in a dumpster. They've shut the lid. They've lighted up in flames of gasoline. That's literally what's happened to this name. And to walk through this, I'm going to, the Netflix daily chart, it is disgusting. It's pukeable. You could get a garbage can. Right now, I kind of want to puke just looking at it. It looks like a small cap penny stock with like multiple reverse splits. Literally, that's what it looks like. It's pretty disgusting and pathetic. But guess what? One man's garbage is another man's gold mine, and it's getting very cheap down here. I think it's trading 12, 14 times. It had a big breakout Friday, which is a little skeptical to me. I don't know if that's a sort of buying and running this puppy up into earnings on, was it Tuesday? Are we running this thing up into earnings and then dumping it back to new lows? I don't know. As I said, I think there's much, much more upside risk on this name than downside here. I think if there's any big blowout downside, 10, 15, 20%, I think I would step in and buy long calls. I'd probably be a buyer if this were to drop 10, 15% on earnings. It's a company that has what? I think 200 million active users or something. So if they can somehow get this right, I mean, management has dropped it off a cliff from the 600s all the way down to 160. I mean, where can we go on the chart? Let's look at the monthly. The weekly doesn't even do anything. Look at this monthly chart. I mean, it took from 2017, from about $1.50 a share, 18, 19, 20, 21. It took 5 years to get up to 600s. And it's taken 1 year to drop back to 160. 5 years on the way up, they took the elevator down, okay? So, where I'd like to long this, and with this big green candle here, that's a nice spot. 150, if you can get it, which now you've seen as a demand zone on Netflix, the 160 demand zone. I think that's probably where I'd like to try a long. Now, this ran up to what, 189 is it at? 190 right now? What's it at right now? It's at, the close is 189. So, far away from 160, unfortunately. That's about 15%, 10, 15%. So, if I can get this big green wick candle, which would be a 140, 150 in the near future, I'd probably be a buyer here, guys. And that's one I'd probably buy with shares long term because they just have such a big user base where if they can monetize that in different ways, they might just be going short-term struggle here. Clearly a huge short-term struggle, but they can get it right. That's a name that you might want to look for further upside. And it's at a point where you say, okay, it's so disgustingly cheap that I sort of have to be a buyer. I mean, how much more can you short this down? Maybe to $1.40, maybe to an 89 if they had like liquidity problems. I mean, I don't know. But you gotta, at some point, this is a name I think I gotta just step in and buy the fear. So that's why I think there's upside risk on the earnings, maybe a 5, 10, 15% pop. So keep an eye, and the earnings strike I'd look at would be about $200 a share on calls that would expire this week. That would be my lotto. Small size, if you want to risk it, 200 calls would be my lotto. On the puts, if you're still, I'm bearish Netflix, short to the ground kind of guy or gal, like 170 would probably be my risk to the downside here. I do think you'll see a 8 to 10% move on this name up or down off of the earnings report. I don't think it's going to be stagnant or sort of trading sideways. Excuse me, let me just take a quick sip of water. My voice is already being lost. Okay, awesome. So we went through these. The last one, I want all the small cap lovers out there. This is great, by the way. I appreciate 200 of you signing in at the peak already. I think all of us got close to like 220 active users already on this live chat. We're going to talk to EVFM and then get your questions ready, guys. Perfect timing. I'm running ahead of schedule. I got my tech team, texting me being like, hey, stay on schedule. So I try and do that because I talk pretty quickly. EVFM, let's go back to the daily chart here, guys. This is just a small cap penny stock, micro cap name. I'm going to walk through it. It's been on that political issue of abortion stuff and female rights and all that stuff. So, keep an eye on this name. Obviously, I don't talk politics. I don't do politics. I trade politics. I trade it up or down based on what's happening, obviously, in the current world or current environment. And so, this one, obviously, this was a weird one because, I had so much strength out of the gates, 500 million shares on almost a 200% runner day back on June 27th. But then we actually caught this dip in here. If you guys can recall, I'm sure a lot of folks in the zone remember this one. We caught this bottom wick here. I think it was around 88.90 cents. And I said, let's look for a multi-day swing back to the 140 levels. And we actually broke out 4 days later, 2 days later. You could have made 40% in 2 days later, and it broke out to 157. It actually beat the 150 wick. My target was 130 from 0.90 here, and 2 days later, that hit for 40%. So this was an unbelievable swing trade for the teams and premium member zone. I actually think I gave this one out for free on StockTwits, Webull, etc. This was a great trade idea, and now we're sort of trending back down on a daily chart. The last 3 days, -7, that's 14. -18 here. So that's a 32% wick down in 3 days. I think Morgan Stanley gave it like a 0.75% price target. But keep in mind, I remember all those red box shorts when the price targets came in at like 70 cents. It, went from like $10 to $6 and then it ripped back up. So keep an eye here. I think if this one gets manipulated a little bit lower this week, look at these bottom wicks here. You guys see these wicks? That's a 79 cents, 81 cents, 86 cents. So if I can maybe get a 79, 77, 75 cents a share, it's another 10, 12% down. I'm probably going to try and long that for a bounce back to $1, which would be about 10, 20% move, 25% move, and $1 would be my next target on that one, with maybe running a really tight 5 to 8% stop off of 75 cents, 77 cents, maybe back down to 68 cents would probably be my stop on this trade. But so keep an eye on EVFM. This is a small cap with tons of liquidity, and the algos are all over this one. So this is a name you could get in and out with size. Okay, so keep an eye on EVFM. This is my top small cap watch for the week because it's got great range, liquidity, and what do we talk about? Price action. Price action, right? I'm going to bring it down to the 5-minute mark. So I want to kind of talk through what a bearish price action would look like or what bullish price action would look like, okay? So let's bring it all the way back to... Let's bring it back. I'm just going to do this one freely here. Let's bring it back. That's the 27, a lot of volume. Let's bring it back to here. I'm just going to show you guys what price action sort of looks like, okay? So, this is a 5-minute chart, right? So buying, we call this like a 4-candle move up, right? Okay, we saw a move off the bottom. You buy the dip. Okay, consolidate. We rip up 5% candle, right? Then we see the double wick here, right? This would be called a double top, about $1. Once it broke through $1, that's actually where bullish and algo confirmation comes into play. Once it breaks this sort of top here, you can buy for another break. So what happens was people bought this at 6%, 7%. Then there was a bigger wick, profit selling the 106. But then when this came back down and you got a double wick little bottom here, so we call positive price action. You get new dip buyers because it's now above the old resistance point at about 98 cents. You have new dip buyers that come in at $1, and then they play the new run, which gets you at about $1.12, which is a 10% move in here. Then the new dip buyers who come in, they make their 10% and they take profits, okay? Then this comes back down. It holds again on a double wick. So all we're seeing is, I call this the staircase. When you see a staircase up and down intraday like this, higher highs, higher lows, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down. And we just keep walking it up, walking it up, walking it up. And then all of a sudden we need to see a bust to new highs. Guess what happens? When everyone's talking about, oh my God, how high it's going, that's when I'm a seller. I like to sell into strength. So when you sell into strength, when I call FOMO, it's at its highest. Everyone's saying, oh my God, it's squeezing, buy. Oh my God, things are ripping to the moon. Guess what that needs to me? I don't even think about it. I sell into that. I sell into strength and I buy when no one wants it. When everyone's saying, oh, goodbye, it's gone, it's done. That's when I'm a buyer of stuff. See this triple bottom? That's where I'd be a buyer. I'd be a buyer around 80, right? Because that's where everyone's selling it and panicking. Okay? So I buy the fear and I sell the FOMO. And that's typically how I've always traded throughout my career the last couple of years, okay? So that's sort of a great example of price action. That's bullish price action. Now, if you went to bearish price action, which is probably what happened in the last chart, this would be staircases down. Sell, consolidate. Someone tried buying this dip. Boom, slammed on you again. That's like a whoa, let's stay away from this. Someone tried buying the dip again, got rejected. Sell, candle, consolidate. Bam, another 6%, right? Okay, rejected again. So it keeps rejecting the lower lows, and then finally consolidates. Bam, lower lows again, another 4 or 5% down, right? So that would be a consolidation, rejection. Okay, and then we saw some short covering, bang. This is probably like into close. It's at 11:30. So this consolidated all day. It sort of didn't do much the rest of the day, okay? So, that would be bearish price action if you start to see that type of selling hit the tape, especially if volume sort of heating up. So keep an eye on this name. This is just a small cap name, and just one that I like to play with range up and down. So just keep an eye on it. And that one does have to do with a little bit of politics as well that's going on in the world, okay? So let's go to the Q&A. I'm going to bring up the comment section here, and I do want to start, what I'm looking at, and sort of, I want to help you guys as much as I can, because the reality is that I do these sessions for you guys. I spend an hour of my time. I prep for an hour and a half. I really put a lot of time, effort, sweat, and emphasis into these YouTube sessions for you guys, because I want folks to hit their dreams. I want folks to trade well. I want folks to become better traders, more efficient, etc. And I've received so much positivity and DMs over the past couple of years from these sessions, and that it just makes me want to do more of them. So obviously the Q&A is a big component of it. So just hit me with some questions, guys. It could be about trading style. It could be about trading in general. It could be about emotions. What I look for, charts, indicators. Could be about anything. So hit me with questions, and I'll try and slowly start down. And I'm going to do about Q&A, guys, for 15 more minutes. If you have to jump off and you love the session, please hit the like button. Please do subscribe. There's about 200 of you live right now on the chat, and probably another 1,000 that will watch this live stream later tonight or within tomorrow. If you guys are not premium members in the Discord, I highly recommend checking it out. The link, our tech team will put it. We have 30,000 members in the Discord. It's a great community. It's a community like none else. It's super focused, super analytical, super technical. A lot of analysis, a lot of charts, tons and tons of really smart people in there. Not just myself, just great like-minded traders. So I highly recommend checking out the Discord. And obviously you could cancel any time and leave the channel if obviously for whatever reason you don't like it. But let's jump into some Q&A here. We're going to jump into, let's go. Larry Campbell. Spud, do you have a trading view script you focus on, or can you give a small how-to what you work on? In terms of trading view, in terms of like that stuff, I use scanners. So you get trade ideas. I use a little bit Webull top gainers from a small cap perspective. And then I use Unusual Whale for option flows. And then really just a lot of it's gut feel, what the price action looks like, where maybe calls or puts are being bought, where buyers are stepping in. And that's really mostly how I trade. So from an algo perspective, just looking at price action, feeling it out through the screen as I just kind of talk through that one example. Those would be the 3 examples I just gave for you. Hopefully that helps, Larry. Billy Coleman, I can Jared. Curtis, but do you think a quick tutorial on charting, fib extension, and retracements and scenarios when you use which of them? To be honest, Curtis, I use simple, just as I just spoke through, like supports and resistances. 150-day, 50-day, and 200 moving day averages are really what I use, because I know that that's where big money sort of uses that as stop losses or buy signals. So I don't get too crazy with the retracements and all that stuff. As I said, I go back to price action, where things look heavy, where things look like they're being sort of accumulated and bought up. So hopefully that helps. Will L question, the two nightmare situations are: one, buying into brief pumps that become all-day faders, bleed over time the whole day, initial bull trap, yep, and then two, rug pulls, abruptly falls off cliff. Yeah, so Will L, I haven't been trading many small caps, and that's been a big small cap vibe right now, is things just cliff diving and fading all day off liquidity and just being shorted to the ground after initial pops, even on great catalysts and great news. And I've lost some great trades the last couple of weeks off like great catalysts and news that normally I'd make that trade 9 out of 10 times and win it. But guess what? There's just lower liquidities in the market. There's less liquidity for risk off. So no one's really risk off on a micro cap catalyst news to really maybe make, multi-day runners are just not even happening. In my experience, in my vision right now, I'm not seeing that stuff. Until small caps really wake up and start to perform better, I'm not a small cap buyer. It's just really quick in and out scalps. Those are the people that are probably only making money in small caps right now. And then unless if you're shorting tops, you're probably doing pretty well. But other than that, it's just not a small cap environment. A lot of rug pulls, a lot of faders. People are like, oh my God, thank God this thing moved up and pumped higher. I'm getting out of this thing. People are using and running for the exits. A lot of selling the news taking right now. So I'm just not in the camp of being a small cap sort of buy the dips, accumulate all day, and then sell monster rips. It's just, you're not seeing that. We're not in that market. It's also summertime. So maybe back in September, I'll try and look at small caps more mainly. Hopefully that helps you, Will. Okay. Pradat Singh, sorry if I say your name incorrectly, sir. Question for Spud: are you concerned at all about the possibility of USD no longer becoming the world's reserve currency? Makes me nervous to buy and hold till the time I retire. I mean, yeah, you could think like that, Pradot. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong again. I mean, the U.S. dollar's been around for what, 100 years, 80 years? I don't even know, 200 years. I have no clue. But it's been around forever. It's been a dominant currency forever. I mean, just saw Europe. The euro's crashing. They're hitting recessions now, and everyone from Europe and Japan are buying the U.S. dollar because that's where they think the strongest currency is going to be. So. People always come back to the dollar. So, until that changes, I don't see. I love when the people from crypto made that huge, deal a couple, like a year ago, saying everyone's going to come to crypto as the world's currency, and clearly that fell 70%. That fell off a cliff, and that didn't exist or didn't happen yet. So, I still think the dollar is pretty strong. So it's at, run at what, 20-year highs right now, 18-year highs. So. I'm in the camp of, until the dollar or anything currency changes, I'm still a huge believer in the dollar, at least in my lifetime, or hopefully stays that lifetime. But to your point, I'm still using it obviously as a long-term, double down, triple down, buying the dips type of mentality in the equity markets at least. CK Kendrick, I normally go short on stocks. About at it. Do you think it's a good strategy? Used to go long on stocks, but it seemed like every time I get in, it drops. Shorting stocks can be very lucrative and great. I would stay away from shorting. My big rules are really, I stay away from shorting overnight on any small caps. And then my number one rule in all of shorting for me is I never short biotech. Biotech, I call it the wild west. It could be down 70% one day and then up 150% the next. So shorting in biotech's a no-no for me. If I short anything small cap related, I sell within the day close and I look for my move. If I don't get it and the day and it drops 20% the next day, great. Shorting small caps has a lot of fees, so it's hard to overnight size on that stuff because you could be losing thousands overnight just by holding the fee. And if it rips in your face the next day and you're down 15-20% in a position and then you lost the fee, it gets messy. If you short tops and small caps and get lucky and can cover on bottom dips, can know where to cover. Same as if you were to buy long, sell rips. If you're really good at scalping to the long side, yeah, you can always try shorting the tops and shorting intraday. If you're really good at scalping during the day, because it's a similar concept, similar idea. You're just playing it the opposite direction, and you're just playing price action on the downside. So you just got to time that stuff right. Some big traders that time some things right on the short side. So definitely check that out. But it's a good idea if you have the liquidity, you can. But to my experience, I've got killed on some overnight shorts, so I like to short intraday only. And I've obviously had some really big trades over the years on some of the intraday stuff. Large caps, totally different story versus small caps. If I short large caps, I really won't do it with shares. I normally do it with put exposure on the premium side. So, I'll buy like a multi-week put, multi-month put on a stock I think that may lose 10, 20, 30, 40, 50%. Great example was Shopify when it was trading at 1,200. PE was outrageous. I bought like $800 puts and the stock ran to like $300. I think those ran for the group over 2,000%, something ridiculous. I didn't obviously hold that much. I think I made a couple hundred percentage points on it. Didn't have that much size, but to the point is if you're predicting a move down or up, that's typically how I'd like to play it in large caps right now, especially being so volatile, because the max you can lose on those contracts is what you bought in for. Whether that's $100, $5K, $10K, $30K, whatever it may be, right? Whatever kind of size I use that day. That's how I'll play sort of shorts with via options. Okay, Will Produzi K got to you. I'm now down. Awesome. Next question I'm looking at, guys. Let me see. Jeremy, could you explain algos? Yeah, I kind of walked through the algo stuff earlier on in session. It's basically just that it comes down to price action, right? So for this, you saw barcode, like this is kind of like barcoding all day. Just the algo's kind of just walking it down, then bang, new lows. So like you can kind of see where, here's a great example of algos. Let me show you guys actually. JP Morgan. Let me show you guys the 5-minute. So this is a great example of what an algo looks like, guys, on JP Morgan, okay? Ripped, covered, shorts, cover. Then the rest of the day from 10:45, it just didn't do anything besides little 0.10% moves the rest of the day, all the way up. And if you just held on from 10:45, you basically made another 2.5%. So this is just algos, right? Will dip. Nope, they buy it back up. They consolidate and they just keep buying it up. So that's a buy algo all the way up. And that's intraday. That's a 5-minute chart. So that's what an algo looks like right here. This is purely probably computer-based algorithm. Maybe a fund that wants to buy up shares for a long swing or a swing thought it was too cheap. And you can just see every dip gets bought back up. Every dip gets bought back up. Every dip gets bought back up. And the new highs. But it's not like exploding, right? It's consolidating, new high, right? Staircase. So that's what an algorithm looks like. Hopefully that's helpful. Next question. Hopefully that's helpful, Jeremy. Jeremy Hofstrand. Stockman, would it be possible to do a 1K to 25K account challenge ever for your smaller account, guys? Yes and no. Right now I'm focusing on my IRA account. I'm trying to get that 50 to 250. Right now I'm at like I think like 100, 105 from the 50. It's been a really volatile. I've went down to like 30 on it, 40 on it. Then I've ripped back in the last 2 or 3 weeks back to like almost 100. So I'm working on that. And then I have my day trade account, which I obviously got to build up as well. My Roth IRA, maybe I can maybe start like a 1K, 2K challenge. That probably won't come till the end of the year. There's just so much volatility right now that I kind of need to take some advantage of. But maybe starting next year, we could start some type of small account challenge, maybe in the books. Dallas, no problem. Happy to help as much as I can. I'm glad you enjoy the insight. Drew M, what's your thoughts on STLA? I'm going to stay away from particular, just certain ticker names. I made that pretty clear in the beginning. Sorry, Drew. Well, I'll get to it. Maybe we get to it another time. Yeah, guys, same thing. I'm going to try and stay away from particular tickers. I just don't want users here that are dialing in for the first time to just watch 5 minutes of a session on a particular ticker. So if you guys keep it just trading related or so anything about anything other than just a specific ticker to cover. Spelky, do a quick tutorial on charting fib extension. We did that. Stacy Blatz, you ever look for cups and handles on the charts? Yeah, cup and handles are pretty good. Apple had one, and then it ripped past 150. That's a great example of a cup and handle. Go check the daily chart on Apple. Went up, dropped 2 or 3 days, and then ripped to new highs. Not new highs, but broke that further sort of cup high. That's a really good example of a cup and handle on the daily the last 10 days. Ticker AAPL, Apple. What else? Where am I? Joey D just started option. This is a good question. Just started options trading, Joey D. Any tips for beginners? Yeah, my biggest tip for options is do not use a lot of liquidity if you don't know what you're doing and have super tight stop losses, because in options, you can, especially on the shorter time expirations, if you're buying weekly options or daily options, you can lose 90% within seconds or minutes. It's really, really crucial. When I trade daily options on the SPY QQQ or weekly options on a Tesla or Netflix or anything, I try to trade very small size. If I go in with large size, I'll keep my stops like really tight, like 5-10%, because if it hits, the biggest concern I have is not losing capital if things get volatile. So if I use lottos or I play earnings, it's normally small size that can play the upside or downside. Those would be my two biggest sort of fears for new traders jumping into options. I've seen people blow $100,000 accounts in options not knowing what they're doing in days. So it's pretty scary. I've seen people YOLO stuff. This is a funny story. We have a guy right now in server in the Spud Zone. I won't say his name, but you'll see him in the options trading floor. And he's been YOLOing his account from 15K doing out of the money options on like SPY QQQ and some weekly stuff. Started with 15Ks at 479K in about 2 weeks. And it's been an absolute crazy, everyone's talking about, it's been crazy to watch him, but it's not good habit. He's obviously had a lot of luck along the way as well. And he continues to YOLO big size, and it's crazy to watch to see some of that stuff. But options can get you really rich, but they also can break your account down and basically go to zero very quickly. So if you don't know what you're doing, I highly recommend testing the waters with very, very small size, maybe not multi-week contracts, because theta, delta, everything could burn. So you don't really want to be jumping into that stuff via options. I have some sessions on options. Scroll through past, click down on my YouTube. You'll probably see some of those sessions. We have about 3 or 4 minutes left, guys. Hopefully that's helpful, Joey D. When are you seeing liquidity come back to small caps? Justin Ness, my man, what's going on, brother? When do you see liquidity coming back to small caps? And why don't we watch the Ryan Garcia fight together last night in Bowery? No, so when I see liquidity coming back to small caps, honestly, Justin, I see it maybe coming back when things settle down in the larger cap markets and the indexes. Until things settle down there, I don't see folks being risk off. We had $10 trillion come out of the market. So where is that money going to? Is it going to commodities? Is it going to, is it treasury? Is it going to, bonds? Is it going to equities? Might just be cash right now. It could be going to real estate. I don't know. So, maybe that money will come back in, but maybe in September, we might see some more small caps heat up into the end of the year. That's typically what ends up happening. I guess some maybe monster runners, September, October, November, December. So keep an eye on that time frame. Summer's always pretty slow. So small caps are pretty dead for me until September timeline after Labor Day. What's your opinion on Apple this week? I don't know, Medical. It's got a great bullish chart, but I'm skeptical on Apple because it really hasn't dropped at all from its highs at all since the market crash. So I think there could be a lot of downside to Apple, but if the demand's still there, we'll wait for the earnings, which are next week. So keep an eye on that. What else we got? Where is Todd? I think I'm at Todd right now. Todd. Garrett Todd, Spud, thanks for the great session. One question I do have is, how do you determine an option premium overpriced or fairly valued? Great question, guys. All new traders, get a pen and paper. This is a great question. I know a lot of you guys are trying options. Garrett Todd with the great question. See it in the chat comment section on the right side. Hey, Spud, thanks for the great session. One question I do have is, how do you determine an option premium is overpriced or fairly valued? The first thing I look at when I scroll the option chain of any stock. Now, keep in mind, I do not trade options on small cap stocks. I call it the free money burn. It's literally a lose money because the premiums are outrageous and you need an absolute drastic move to actually make money. So when you talk about large cap option chains, how do you look at it? If you notice during earnings season, the implied volatility, which is the IV, you'll see it on your options. If you ever play options or buy it, all the new guys, you'll see it. If it's above 100, 120 is really my sort of line in the sand. If it's above 120, that's considered like a high premium, which basically means you need a bigger move in the stock up or down to make money on that contract. So, when you saw Target, right? Target dropped, 15, 20, 25% in one day. The implied volatility, the IV percentage on Target was like 30%, 30, 40%. So guess what? If you played puts on Target, they ran 5,000%, 10,000%, something ridiculous. But guess what? It's because Target never moves on earnings over the last 5-10 years like that. They do 2-3% at max. So, the market makers that are making those option chains, they're not used to a drastic earning. Same thing with Netflix. They ran 3,000% last time because no one expected Netflix to drop 28% in one sitting the next day on their first earnings, right? So when you look at implied volatility, it's basically the volatility you need to make money on those contracts. So that's the first thing you look at if they're overpriced or not. You look at the implied volatility, and 120% is normally my threshold. Anything below 100 is pretty good. So if you get a bigger move above 5, 10, 15% for below 100, you're going to probably make money on that option. That's if obviously you're in the money, right? Because obviously if you're in the money, you're going to make more capital, right? Those options are going to lose less value over time. So that's a really good question, Garrett Todd. Hopefully everyone took some notes on that one. That's a really good question that we get a lot. What's a fairly priced, fairly valued option, right? How do you decipher and look at premiums, right? So that's a really good one. Awesome, guys. Billy Coleman, great stream, Spud. Kids woke up. LOL. Thanks for the info, man. No problem, Billy. You're welcome anytime. Thanks for the tech team for Joey response there. Shakita James, is it better to trade ETFs versus individual stocks in this market? Shakita, I think indexes are easier because they're a little less volatile, but you can make much more money probably trading the equities up and down. As I mentioned earlier on in this session, I'm trading them via options. So that's calls or put spreads. And that's how I'm making money in this market. And that's how I'm trading them in this market. Drew M. Spud, would you do your daily alerts on video, calling them in live like you do on Discord? No, it's too much. A lot of people prefer the text message to their phone. They can get, what I'm buying in real time, what I'm shorting in real time, what I'm swinging in real time, where I'm looking to add things, where I'm looking to sell things. It's just all much easier via the text. Not everyone has the luxury of trading full time and being on their phones or laptops all day, being able to listen live. So I find text messages to be helpful. Also, it's less distraction for me. I like to really focus in on during the day and give, really good, hopefully consistent alerts. That's obviously my goal every day. Drew M., I saw you mention potentially about opening a brick and mortar location. Is this something you consider? Actually, that was something really cool I've had some sort of dreams about or, ambitions about, maybe opening like a brick and mortar, like a 30-40 sort of laptop station or, desktop station, where traders can sort of like come in, collaborate, maybe pay like a weekly, monthly fee. In different locations, but it's something very long-term. It's just an idea. I don't think it would actually come to fruition anytime soon, but it was an idea. Obviously, the user base and sort of crowd for us is getting really strong. The community has really been just growing like crazy over the last couple of years. So it is an idea. And obviously getting all the traders in the sections together would be really cool. And I think it just help a lot of folks learn, knowledgeable, and a ton of people obviously want to try this full time. So it's an idea, but obviously I have not narrowed anything down brick and mortar wise. But great question. It is probably a goal of mine longer term. Robbie Marks, how much of a move are you expecting on Apple? I'm asking because traders took it when you alerted on Friday. I think they're going to have guidance revisions, but I do think the numbers will be pretty strong. Let's see how it performs this week. I think 153, 154, 155 would be my line in the sand to probably cut those puts. And that's where I'm looking at. What else? Sorry, guys. I'm already like losing my voice here. I'm just reading questions. I'm still here. I'm going to go to Nadia Yefe. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I'll go to your question next. We're about a minute over time here, so I do want to cut it. It's getting a little late. I try and go to bed early for the Monday sessions. And you kindly, when entering calls, tell us what price you should buy at. So the lotto calls on Fridays, guys, Thursday, Fridays, is tough to price because things move 30, 40, 50% within seconds or minutes. When it's weekly calls or swing calls or monthly calls, I'll alert the price I buy in because those are really like longer term, like multi-day duration calls or puts. So, I can help, from my entry standpoint, I'll alert those. But from a intraday, it's pretty challenging. So I'll say where I bought, what I'm looking at from a target perspective, percentage wise. What are your thoughts on shorting the housing market, Sean? That's a good one. My views on the housing market is, it does need to come down, I think 10, 15, 20% minimum. But my also views on the housing market is everyone just bought during the low rate environment. And I don't think anyone's going to be selling. And my issue is there's not much demand in this sector. There's not much supply in this sector, so I still think there's going to be demand. So therefore, I don't think you're going to get people are thinking like a 2008 crash. I don't see that unless unemployment's still super low, and and big companies have the most cash they've ever had. So I don't think they're going to be firing like they used to fire. And I don't know, I just don't see the housing market taking like that big of a hit. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the housing. That's my obviously educated guess or opinion. How do you base your risk, Jared Kane? How do you base your risk management on your trades? It all depends via whether I'm buying stock shares, equity shares, or whether I'm buying calls or puts or trading premiums. So everything will be different. Robert Rusniak, small cap. I would like to know more plays of it, please, if possible. Of course, Robert. As I said, when small caps get hot, I always tell people I'll be the first one that will jump in and be ready to rock. But right now, small caps are not the play right now. There's not a lot of liquidity. There's a lot of faders, as you saw some questions in the previous posts here from users in the chat. I just don't love small caps right now. There's only like one or two good ones a week max, and the rest just sell off every day. So until that sector heats up, typically, in my experience over the last 3 or 4 years, September things start to pick up a little bit more. So September should be your horizon. Maybe when you start really looking at some more small cap momentum runners. Higher time frames more reliable. Shakita James, higher time frames more reliable than intraday. I like intraday 5-minute chart because it gives me a sense of the feel through the tape. And the tape, what I mean by I can look at the monitor, feel through the monitor, whether there's a lot of selling, a lot of buying over like a 10 5-minute intervals. I can really see where things are headed, and that gives me the grasp of whether I maybe take overnight calls or overnight puts, and I can see the tape, right? Okay, cool. Chan, where do you invest your trading profits? Honestly, I'm all cash at majority all cash at the end of every trading day at 4 p.m. So it just sits in a trading account right now. I've also been all cash on my larger size. Just sitting all cash since last December. I'd love to maybe dabble into the real estate market. I think that's going to be a best potential defensive play for the next few years. I think real estate's really what I want to get into, but I'd love to get into that real estate on like a pullback in the housing market. So that's where I have a lot of the cash just waiting to be deployed, and then obviously within my IRAs and day trade accounts, would I trade daily on those, and those just obviously still sit all cash as well. I'm not long term in the equity market yet. I'm a trader at heart, so I'm still waiting for that capitulation day, which I don't think we've really had. Shane Miller, what's up, Spudding Caps? What's up, my man? I'm guessing you just jumped on. Hit that rewind. It's a great session. Thanks for jumping on. Emily Taylor, I prefer the Discord alert. That's awesome. Thanks so much, Emily. What's the difference of buy to open, sell to options when you alert us? So basically buying to open. That's Harmony's. Harmony's our head of options trader in the chat. He's fantastic at what he does. Great intraday options trader. Highly recommend checking him out. He's also extremely knowledgeable and does an awesome job in our community. So when Harmony does that stuff, buy to open, sell to open. So like buy to open, right, would be buying to open a position at X idea, X expiration, X entry. Sell to open would be he's selling those at X entry, X expiration, etc. You could also like sell and write, or buy, write calls, sell puts. We don't do much of that. Mostly just intraday trading premiums. Info, how are you trading the Google stock split? As you noticed, the Amazon stock split ran up pretty heavy and then sold off. The Shopify stock split ran up pretty heavy, sold off. So that's the trend right now. So keep an eye. If Google runs up pretty heavy, put might be sold off. Same thing with Tesla. If we could get a big run up here, splits in August, I'm probably going to go short and buy some puts just because the trend has been rided up pre-split, sell the news. So we'll see if that trend continues. Good session today from Joey. Very helpful. Appreciate that, man. That would be awesome. We could call it. Okay. Last couple questions I'm going to shut down within a minute or two. I see folks trickling off. I highly recommend checking out the Discord. Our tech teams put the Discord link in the channel, or you can see my bio on YouTube or StockTwits or Webull. It is Spudzone Discord. Discord-Spudzone. So you can check us out on Discord. That's where everything happens, guys. That's where all the community sharing and charts and now analysis, everything's in there. Last couple questions here before I am out. One more question. Let's see. Nathaniel Weiss. Great question, guys. Here's a good one for all new traders. Do you use stop loss triggers? Stop loss is like using your car keys. I say this every single month to all the new traders and members that join the group. If you do not use a stop loss, basically you're saying, okay, take my money if the stock keeps going down. That's how I look at it. And I've been so burnt over the years. Once I learned how to use a stop loss in trading and the main goal of trading for me, the main goal of day trading is to keep capital, maintain capital. And how you do that is by keeping tight stop loss triggers. Therefore, if a certain spot on a chart gets hit, you can exit that trade. I'll take a 10% loss, but guess what? The stock could break down another 10, 20, 30% lower than that. Therefore, you just saved another 10, 20, 30% of your capital, right? But you took a small loss. So cutting losses quickly has been probably one of the biggest things I've ever learned in trading, and it's helped me really grow portfolios over the years because of that one thing. Can you drive a car without your car keys? The answer is no. So you can't really go anywhere without your car keys. You can't unlock the doors and you can't start the engine. So that's how I look at, and that's how I, viable. That's how I use a stop loss. Hopefully that's really helpful. And I think, Nathaniel, that's a really good question for all the new traders. I appreciate that, Nathaniel, because everyone knows, like, how do you do a stop loss? Now, your stop loss can be on your comfort zone. That could be 5%, 10%, 15%, whether it's a swing or a day trade or an option play. But that's how I potentially look at it. So hopefully that question, hopefully I helped answer that question pretty helpful. Pretty fluently. That's really it for me, guys. Yeah, that's really it. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty it for me, guys. Great questions today. Awesome chat. Already receiving tons of great DMs. Let's trade well this week. This was basically the watch list. So probably not even going to put out a watch list because everyone sort of joined here. I'll just post the tickers that I'm watching. If you guys could just drop some comments. If this session was helpful, please do like and then subscribe, and do share with family or friends that are looking to be traders and looking to gain knowledge on the markets. I do this out of my own free time, and I prep, and I just try and help as many folks as I possibly can, for free on this. So, just feel free to share, feel free to subscribe. It all helps the community, etc. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks so much for the great comments. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the session. And Spud Zone is out. I will see you all fresh, bright, and early tomorrow. Let's have a solid week of trading up and down. Let's ride it the way we go. Thanks, guys. Cheers. Do hit the likes and subscribe button and see Spud Zone Discord. Thank you. Cheers.